What's up, guys? This is Austin from the Coach's Compound. Today we are going over the deadlift. Stay tuned. When it comes to the deadlift, as a coach, you probably have an opinion that it is either for deadlift or against deadlifting. When in reality, it is important for us to go over how to properly deadlift in general. When it comes to deadlifting, if you have previously been injured by it or don't like it, it is probably because you were doing it incorrectly or have gone about deadlifting incorrectly. So we're going to go over how to properly deadlift and how to properly load the deadlift so that you can be the most successful you can be with deadlifting. So the first part about the deadlift is called a hinge pattern. Okay? Hinging, think of like a door hinge. When you close it, it goes around kind of an axis, aka like this is hinging. Alright, so when it comes to the deadlift is what we call a functional movement, meaning that we use it every single day in many different capacities. I think they've even done some studies that show that people deadlift over 2,000 times a day. Because every time that you bend over, you are deadlifting. But when it comes down to it, most people are used to outside in the real world bending over and picking things up with a rounded back, or in a kind of a way like that, rather than properly knowing how to hinge. So this is an exercise that you can go over with your athletes, even like in the beginning of a group class, on teaching how to properly hinge. So this is just a PVC pipe. And it can be a broomstick, whatever. You can practice at home, anything like that. You're going to take this, put it behind your back. There's 3 points of contact you want to think about. Head, kind of mid-back / shoulders, and then lower back, kind of where the butt crack is. Okay? So you're going to take it here. As you are here, try and keep the weight in your your heels, excuse me. So by doing that, I practice pedaling my feet. Okay? So I'm taking my toes off the ground, putting them back on the ground, toes off the ground. As I'm doing that, I'm shooting my butt back, and I'm bending forward. Okay, I go down. Try to find that point where your back breaks, meaning at some point the PVC pipe will come off your back. Find that point, and what you want to do is skate right above that line as you are deadlifting. And then at that point, okay, that's where I'd start bending my knees to go down to the bar. Whereas most people start in the deadlift in this position, which notice that would follow this fault. Your neck would be off of or your head would be off the PVC pipe at that point. So this is kind of like a reset to teach your athletes how to properly hinge. This next aspect is the idea of what your pelvis is doing whenever you are bending over. This kind of goes along with the lines with the PVC pipe method. So I'll just kind of pull my shirt a little tighter so you can see. Now I want you to look at my lower back during this. So we have what's called anterior pelvic tilt, which we almost call like a stripper fault, where your butt is shooting out. You can see this kind of rounding of my lower back here, and my chest is now becoming big. Okay, this is kind of what you see those guys walking around like this, puffing their chest out, or you see it in the Instagram models where the girls are just taking booty pics like this all day long. Okay, so you can imagine deadlifting. Most people come to here when they're standing up. Instead of coming to full extension with their hips, they open up their chest so it looks like they're standing up all the way. So once again, we're here. Anterior pelvic tilt. Then think of the opposite, posterior pelvic tilt, which is like the butt wink. If you've heard of that in a squat, when it's neutral and next thing you know, So you can see. So imagine my pelvis is right here. My hand represents my pelvis. As it dips forward, anterior pelvic tilt because it's moving anteriorly, posteriorly tilting, therefore my hands are moving posteriorly. So a quick test you guys can do to learn how to be neutral meaning the best alignment for your spine, is thumb kind of in your solar plex, aka like your sternum, right here, and just about where your pubic muscle is, and you're going to make a box. As I look down from here, I cannot see my lower hand at all. Versus if I raise my chest, aka anterior pelvic tilt, then I can see my chest or my bottom hand. Same thing, if I bring my chest down, making that posterior pelvic tilt, there's my hand again. So finding that neutral is finding that position in which you cannot see that bottom hand. Okay? Oftentimes what that turns into is squeezing your butt. Because so let's say I'm an anterior pelvic tilt naturally. If I squeeze my butt, it naturally orients my pelvis to a neutral position. And then ribcage is flared, I bring it down. Bring it down. So imagine like, if I'm going to come over and I'm going to punch you, you're not going to try to get punched like this. No one wants to get punched like this. You want to get punched like this. You're bracing yourself. AKA squeezed abs, squeezed butt.
So now we're going to look at common faults that you see when deadlifting. Here's what it looks like in full time, and we're going to stop right here and show you from the side. Notice my rounded back, and then as soon as I'm about to go, I crank my neck. Whenever you round your spine in these positions, it is going to be a loss of force production, aka you're not going to be able to lift as much weight, as well as you can easily just get a tweak in your neck. So now here is the proper positioning for deadlifting. Notice how I just practice neutral spine. I'm doing a reverse deadlift down to the bar so that I can know I'm in good positioning as I stand up. Abs are tight. Squeeze my butt. Notice my shins are vertical in that starting position. You'll see from the side. I mean, a vertical shin position rather than like a clean would be your knees are over top of the bar. So there we go again, setting up my position. And then watch as I try to keep my spine in complete neutral alignment the whole entire time, which will kind of look like at the bottom position that you're almost looking slightly in front of you, and as you stand up, you're looking straight. That is how you're going to keep neutral alignment when deadlifting.
So let's say that you understand how to deadlift. You actually have pretty good form, as coaches would tell you, or you video yourself, watch yourself, you go over these videos and you're like, yeah, I do all that. Why does my back still hurt? So oftentimes when we are starting exercise programs, whether you've been doing it for a long time or a short time, the body has to become adapted to said stimulus. Okay, this is also called the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands. So let's say you jump into your class workout that you programmed or whatever. It is a 5x5 deadlift, whatever it would be. And you know that 3 years ago you deadlifted 500 pounds. Therefore, you would get 80% of your 500 pounds, and then that's the weight that you use. But you haven't deadlifted heavy in months. Your body is no longer adapted to that stimulus. It is now adapted to, let's say, like 430 rather than 500 pounds. So that's even generous. Oftentimes when it comes to coaching, even with athletes, we don't take the time to reintroduce a stimulus periodically. I'm going to jump straight into this 5x5 at 430. When in reality, you should probably do 5x5, 315, starting super light and going too light and then working your way up systematically, week by week, rather than just jumping straight into it. Okay? Your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments, they need to become adapted to the stimulus. So let's say you have an athlete that has hurt their back from deadlifting, when in reality it's probably because they have bad posture. But their athlete is hurt. Rather than just stopping them deadlifting, tell them to not be afraid to cut down the weight to, like, if they're used to 500 pound deadlift, 135, and move it with like crisp, perfect form. You can just drastically decrease the intensity, which will then give you a chance to increase the volume over a period of time. And once their muscles have become adapted to said volume, which in their aspect, that's going to seem very, very light for a very long time, but in the long run, their motor units, their muscle fascicles, big word, their muscles are going to become adapted to that stimulus. just because of the said principle. And then once they're adapted, 225, 315, 405, 450, 500, whatever. I mean, that's a huge jumps, but you get it. Not telling your athletes to just jump into the 5x5 at what their max used to be, but reintroducing an athlete slowly into the new program, into the movement again, not just jumping straight in. Okay? So tell your athletes, take their time, take it easy, learn to do the movement correctly with no pain so that they can avoid fear of that movement, which in the long run will screw them up big time. So don't be afraid to bring them down to nice and easy weights. Okay? Increase the volume, then increase the intensity, aka the weight. So in closing, as a coach, the deadlift is an extremely important exercise just for the pure fact of how many times we hinge a day. So teaching your athletes how to do that correctly is way more important than just seeing them get a higher PR on their 1 rep max deadlift. Okay? So when you have athletes that have the fear avoidance of a movement such as a deadlift, it is important to reiterate to them the importance of the movement itself. It is a natural functional movement, therefore they need to be able to perform it correctly. Take things slow with them, build up their tolerance for the movement, then add the intensity, aka the weight. Take things slow, go over their pelvic motions, teach them how to properly set their spine, and that is going to set your athletes up for success when it comes to deadlifting. Never take a movement and throw it away. There is a place for all movements. So instead of just throwing it away and saying that deadlift is bad, why don't we take things slow and learn to do it properly? If you have any questions or would like to go over any more things about the deadlift, subscribe to this channel, leave me a message. You can find us on Instagram as well, at The Coach's Compound. Let us know what you'd like to learn. If you'd like to go over something or you think that something is incorrect, let me know. This is all discussion. Okay, this is for coaches by coaches. And remember, guys, stop searching, start coaching.